So there's this huge new trade deal brewing between India and the EU, and it's set to get rid of tariffs on most goods. Sounds like a win-win, right? Well, the real story here isn't about who's winning. It's about a major trading nation that was, well, strategically and very deliberately left out in the cold.
So who exactly is this surprise loser? I mean, when two economic giants like India and the European Union make a deal, the ripple effects are felt everywhere. But in this case, one country didn't just find itself on the sidelines. It was actively pushed out. Let's dig in and find out who, and more importantly, why.
All right, the country we're talking about, it's Turkey. And honestly, this caught a lot of people by surprise, because Turkey has a really unique economic relationship with the EU. Most folks just assumed it would automatically get a piece of the action. Instead, it got completely shut out.
And here's the thing, the agreement doesn't mince words. It's right there in black and white, saying that the benefits of the deal, like getting your goods into India's massive market with zero tariffs, do not apply to Turkish products, not even if they try to ship them through an EU country. This raises a massive question. Why single out Turkey like this?
Now, to really get why this was such a bombshell, we need to dive into Turkey's very special connection with the EU. It's a relationship that goes way deeper than most people think, but maybe not in the way you'd expect.
Okay, so here's the crucial detail you have to understand. Turkey is not a political member of the EU. But, and this is a huge but, since way back in 1996, it's been a member of the EU's customs union. That is a powerful economic club that, when you're talking about trade, makes Turkey function almost like a full-blown member.
So what does that actually mean? Well, because of this customs union, goods are just flowing back and forth between Turkey and the EU with basically zero tariffs. Their economies, their supply chains, they're all tangled up together. And that is exactly why everybody just assumed that any trade deal the EU signed would naturally pull Turkey along for the ride.
Yep, that assumption turned out to be completely wrong, and the reason why comes down to a really specific and, as it turns out, super powerful piece of trade jargon that India insisted on, something called rules of origin.
Think of rules of origin like a passport for a product. Seriously, it's the official rulebook that determines where something was actually made. And in a free trade deal, that's everything. It's the gatekeeper that decides which products get the VIP, low tariff treatment, and which ones are stuck paying the full price.
Let's make this super simple. Imagine a phone made from start to finish in China. Now, let's say it gets shipped to India, and all they do there is put it in a new box and slap on a sticker. Has its origin really changed? No way, right? The rules of origin are there to make sure a substantial transformation, like actual manufacturing, has to happen. Just changing the packaging doesn't count.
And that's precisely what these strict rules are all about stopping. It's a problem called trade deflection. It's basically when a country that's not in the deal tries to sneak its products through a member country to get all the benefits without signing on the dotted line. India wanted to be crystal clear. A deal with the EU is a deal with the EU, and nobody else.
Okay, but this is where the story gets really interesting. These rules didn't just play defense for India. They actually created this brilliant, and you got to think, probably intentional, strategic advantage for India.
So first, let's just look at the direct damage to Turkey. We're talking about their key industries: steel, machinery, auto parts. They're now at a huge disadvantage. A machine part made in Germany can waltz into India with low or zero tariffs, but an identical part from Turkey, it's going to get hit with the full tariff, making it way more expensive.
But you know, as that door was slamming shut on Turkey, a different one was quietly creaking open for India. The very same set of rules that blocked Turkish goods, while they created a kind of new indirect path for Indian goods to get into Turkey. It's a pretty clever two-step process. Check this out. An Indian company can now ship its products, let's say textiles, to Germany. Thanks to the New Deal, that's a zero-tariff trip. But then, once those Indian goods are sitting in Germany, they're officially inside the EU market. And because of that EU-Turkey customs union, those same goods can then travel from Germany to Turkey, again, with zero tariffs. It's kind of genius. India gets tariff-free access to Turkey's market without ever having to negotiate a deal with them directly.
So you have to ask yourself, was this incredibly slick move just a lucky coincidence? A technical loophole? Or was this a calculated, strategic play from the very beginning, rooted in something a little deeper than just commerce?
And, well, this is where the conversation shifts from trade spreadsheets to geopolitics. Officially, it's all about the technical rules of origin.
But a lot of analysts are pointing out that this looks like a deliberate move by India, maybe showing its frustration with Turkey's political positions and its close relationship with Pakistan.
And you know what? This isn't happening in a vacuum. If you look at India's other recent trade deals with the UAE, with Australia, with the UK, you start to see a clear pattern emerging. India is getting really savvy about using these technical trade rules to reward its friends, sideline its rivals, and fiercely protect its own industries from any backdoors. It's a new, much more assertive strategy on the world stage.
So where does this leave Turkey? They're clearly in a tough spot now, at a real disadvantage. What can they even do about it? The answer is not a whole lot. Their options are pretty limited.
Basically, they're looking at three paths, and none of them are easy. First, they could try to negotiate their own trade deal directly with India, but with the political situation being what it is, that seems like a long shot. Option 2, try to get the India-EU deal changed. That's almost impossible. You need everyone to agree. The final idea? Just move their factories into the EU so their products count as made in Europe. But wow, can you imagine how expensive and complicated that would be? Long story short, Turkey has been strategically outmaneuvered.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. This whole situation is a masterclass in how the boring, technical fine print of a trade agreement can actually be a powerful tool of foreign policy. It forces us to ask, in our complex, interconnected world, is it even possible to separate economics from geopolitics? Is a trade deal ever really just about the numbers?